Unit 15, page 212. Listening to.
How are mergers evaluated? Section 16 of the Act lays out the criteria to be employed in the merger evaluation process. There are 3 key steps. First, the investigators and, where appropriate, the tribunal must consider the impact of the merger on competition. This is not simply a matter of calculating present market shares and imputing future market shares. It's a sophisticated analysis in which a range of factors must be considered. The nature of the product, the state of international trade in the product, past inter-firm relations, the prospect that, in the absence of the merger, one of the firms may fail, are some of the factors that have to be accounted for. Once this analysis is done, it's possible that a merger that leads to a large market share might be approved, whereas one that results in substantially smaller market shares might be rejected. One word of advice here. The definition of the market is a very important step in conducting the competition analysis. Predictably, the parties tend to define their market very widely. Competition authorities tend to rather narrow definitions of the market. Taking clearly ridiculous views of market definition isn't helpful to the evaluation process. If the first question is answered in the affirmative, that is, if it's found that the merger will impede competition, the investigators and tribunal must ask whether there aren't efficiency gains from the merger that may counterbalance the negative impact on competition. Here again, try and avoid presenting extreme ideas or analyses based on anecdotal evidence alone. Don't exaggerate the efficiencies expected from the merger, and bear in mind that the evidence regarding the efficacy of mergers as a corporate strategy is sceptical at best. Or if, as appears inevitable, you're going to use the economies of scale argument for a merger, then present evidence. Don't simply assert it, and don't simply claim that because there are significantly bigger firms in the same industry elsewhere in the world, that this somehow means that the continued existence of your firm demands that you be permitted to merge. And related to this, if you're going to insist that turning down the merger will result in the death of one or even both parties to the merger, then again, be prepared to support this with data and sound analysis. Assertions are cheap, and we've heard them all before. Your problem with efficiency defences is that they need to be evaluated up front before the merger has been consummated. This means that the claims are inherently speculative, as parties are not yet in a position to demonstrate their existence. The final step is the assessment of the impact on public interest. An anti-competitive merger may be permitted in the face of strong public interest reasons in favour of the merger. By the same token, a merger that's judged to have no negative impact on competition may be disallowed on public interest grounds. This is a difficult and controversial step. It's eased somewhat by the fact that the Act specifies the public interest grounds that may be considered, but it'll always be a difficult judgment call. Again, cynicism and vastly exaggerated claims don't help anyone's case or promote the effective administration of the law. I want to end this by emphasising a point made at the beginning of my discussion of mergers. There's no public policy presumption against mergers. On the contrary, it's recognised that these transactions are frequently an aspect of corporate restructuring that's inevitable and productive. I'd expect the vast majority of mergers to be easily approved, and even those that do run into objections from the competition authorities are generally susceptible to a negotiated resolution that allows a form of the transaction to go through without offending competition requirements. But mergers that are devised for dominating markets will fall foul of the Act. Better to recognise this up front. In other words, factor this regulatory hurdle into your calculations right from the beginning. It'll save time and money, and considerable frustration down the line.